The massive ships appeared without warning. One moment the space beyond Mars was empty. The next, 7 enormous black vessels hung there like mountains in the sky. Each was bigger than the largest city on Earth. Their surfaces absorbed light, rather than reflected it, making them look like holes cut into the fabric of space itself. At first, people thought the images were fake. Social media buzzed with theories about government tricks or movie promotions. But when every telescope on and off Earth showed the same thing, panic began to spread. Diane Curtis was asleep when her phone rang. As a major in the United Earth Defense Force, sleep was a luxury she had learned to live without. She answered on the second ring. "Curtis here. Major, this is General Howard. You need to get to the Pentagon immediately." Her apartment was dark as she dressed quickly in her uniform. The streets of Washington, D.C. were unusually quiet at 3 a.m., but she could sense the tension in the air. Military vehicles moved through intersections. Police stood on corners talking, into radios. Something big was happening. The Pentagon war room was packed when she arrived. Screens on every wall showed the alien ships from different angles. Military leaders from around the world joined by video call. President Garcia sat at the head of the table, her face tight with worry. "Major Curtis, thank you for coming so quickly," the president said. "I'm told you're our best strategic mind when it comes to unusual threats." "I'm not sure anyone is prepared for this kind of threat, Madam President," Diane said honestly. A man Diane didn't recognize stood up. "This is why we need Major Curtis." He was tall with a military haircut but wore civilian clothes. "I'm Captain Alan Morgan, former Navy SEAL. For the past 3 years, I've been working with NASA studying potential alien communication patterns." "And what have you learned?" asked General Howard. "That we know nothing," Alan said. "But Major Curtis has a gift for seeing patterns others miss." Before Diane could respond, every screen in the room flickered. The images of the ships disappeared, replaced by a face that was almost human but wrong in subtle ways. The skin was gray-blue, the eyes too large and entirely black. When it spoke, its mouth moved too precisely. "People of Earth, I am High Admiral Krell of the Varaxian Armada. Your planet has been selected for resource extraction. Your technology is primitive. Your defenses are inadequate. You will surrender all mineral, water, and biological resources. You have 72 Earth hours to comply. Resistance will result in extinction." The message repeated once more before the screens returned to showing the ships. The room erupted in shouting. The president raised her hand for silence. "Options, people. I need options. Our nuclear missiles can't reach that far with any accuracy," said General Howard. "Even if they could, we have no idea if they would have any effect." "Surrender is unacceptable," said the Chinese military representative on the screen, "but we need time to prepare a unified defense." As the arguments continued, Diane stayed quiet, watching the replay of the alien's message on her tablet. Something about the way the alien spoke bothered her. She played it again, watching the mouth movements. "Captain Morgan," she said suddenly, interrupting a heated debate about evacuation plans. "Would you say these Varaxians are a hive mind species?" Alan looked surprised. "Based on limited data, yes. Their communication patterns suggest highly coordinated thought processes." "Why?" "The way he speaks. It's too perfect, too rehearsed. I think they're struggling to understand individual communication." A new voice joined the conversation. "Major Curtis is onto something important." A thin man with wild gray hair and glasses stood in the doorway. "Dr. Kevin Walsh, Quantum Physics, DARPA. I've been analyzing their ship's energy signatures. They operate with perfect synchronization, suggesting a shared consciousness." President Garcia looked between them. "How does this help us?" "I'm not sure yet," Diane admitted. "But it might give us an advantage they don't expect." The discussion continued into the morning. Military forces worldwide went on high alert. People began panic buying and fleeing cities. Religious leaders called for prayer. Doomsday preppers said, "I told you so." In a small observatory outside of Denver, Lisa Patel hadn't slept in 24 hours. The young astronomer had been tracking the alien ships since they appeared. While the world panicked, she noticed something no one else had: a pattern in the energy field surrounding the ships. After triple-checking her data, she made a call to a college friend who worked at NASA, who connected her to Captain Morgan, who immediately put her on a secure line with Major Curtis. The fields around their ships fluctuate, Lisa explained, sending her readings to Diane's tablet. Every 4.3 hours there's a 3-second drop in power. It's tiny but consistent. Diane looked at the data. Is this a weakness? Maybe, Lisa said. But more importantly, it's imperfection in a supposedly perfect system. Diane brought this information to the emergency council. The room had thinned out as leaders left to manage the growing crisis. Dr. Walsh studied Lisa's findings with growing excitement. This supports my theory, he said. Perfect synchronization requires enormous energy. These fluctuations could indicate they're struggling to maintain it this far from their home system. Can we exploit it? President Garcia asked. Not directly, Dr. Walsh admitted. Their technology is still far beyond ours. But it tells us something crucial, Diane said. They're not gods. They have limitations. They make mistakes. The next day, as the world waited in fear, Diane, Alan, Kevin, and a team of specialists worked around the clock. They analyzed every second of the alien message, every reading from their ships. The deadline was approaching, and they needed an edge. That evening, word came in from military observers worldwide. The aliens had sent smaller scout ships into Earth's atmosphere, hovering over major cities. They didn't attack, just watched. In New York, Tokyo, London, Rio, people looked up to see black disks floating silently overhead. They're studying us, Alan said, learning our weaknesses. Or maybe, Diane suggested, looking at new data from Lisa Patel, they're not as certain of victory as they want us to believe. In the Pentagon War Room, now her temporary home, Diane Curtis watched the countdown clock. 48 hours remained until the Varaxian deadline. She hadn't slept in 30 hours, but her mind was clearer than ever. The Varaxians think they know what humans will do, she told the president during a briefing. They expect us to either surrender immediately or launch a desperate doomed attack. What they don't expect is for us to understand them better than they understand us. What are you suggesting, Major? Diane pointed to the latest analysis. We fight them, but not the way they expect. Not with just our weapons, but with what makes humans unique. Our unpredictability, our individuality, our history of fighting against overwhelming odds. As she outlined her unconventional plan, President Garcia's expression changed from doubt to cautious hope. It's a long shot, the president said. Yes, Diane agreed. But sometimes a long shot is the only shot worth taking. Outside, people looked up at the alien ships with fear. They didn't know that in secret facilities around the world, humanity was preparing not just to fight, but to send a message the Varaxians would never forget. Diane hadn't left the Pentagon in 36 hours. Empty coffee cups surrounded her workstation as she studied everything known about the Varaxians. Captain Alan Morgan worked beside her, occasionally stepping out to coordinate with military units worldwide. Dr. Kevin Walsh had set up a makeshift lab in an adjacent room, his whiteboard covered with complex equations about the aliens' energy systems. You need to sleep, Alan said, placing a fresh coffee beside her. So do you, Diane replied without looking up from her tablet. I did. 20 minutes in the chair over there. Diane rubbed her eyes. The Varaxians don't sleep. At least not individually. Their ships show constant activity. Because they're a hive mind, Alan said. They think together, work together. Which means they expect us to do the same, Diane said, suddenly sitting up straighter. But that's not how humans operate. Alan leaned closer to see what had caught her attention. On the screen was footage from cities around the world. While governments urged calm, people reacted in countless different ways. Some prayed in churches, temples, and mosques. Others threw end-of-the-world parties. Families gathered in homes. Individuals made personal choices about how to face potential extinction. We're unpredictable, Diane said. Even to ourselves. The door opened and Lisa Patel walked in, escorted by a security officer. The young astronomer looked exhausted but excited. "I've confirmed the pattern," she said without greeting. "The energy fluctuations happen exactly every 4.3 hours and last precisely 3.2 seconds. It's like a heartbeat." Dr. Walsh emerged from his lab, hair standing on end. "A systemic reset," he said. "Their shields need to recalibrate." "Can we use this?" Diane asked. "Maybe," Dr. Walsh said. "But we'd need perfect timing and something that could reach them in exactly the right moment." "We have something," Alan said quietly. When everyone looked at him, he hesitated. "I need presidential clearance to discuss it." 20 minutes later, they gathered in a smaller, even more secure room. President Garcia joined by video from the White House bunker. General Howard stood by the door. "You have clearance," the president said. "Tell them." Alan pulled up a classified file on the main screen. Project Artemis was supposed to be humanity's first true interplanetary warship, hidden inside an asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. It's not finished, but it's operational. The screen showed a sleek ship nestled inside a hollowed-out asteroid. "How did you keep this secret?" Lisa asked in amazement. "Multiple countries, private companies, all working on supposedly separate projects," General Howard explained. "No one had the full picture except a few top commanders." "It's not enough to fight their fleet," Alan continued, "but it has something unique. Experimental dark energy weapons based on Dr. Walsh's theories." Dr. Walsh looked shocked. "My work was theoretical. I never thought—" "The military takes good ideas seriously," General Howard said simply. Diane studied the ship's specifications. "This could work with what we know about their shield fluctuations. But we need more than just a weapon. We need a message." "What kind of message?" the president asked. "One that makes them reconsider everything they think they know about us," Diane said. As the Varaxian deadline approached 48 hours, panic increased worldwide. Stock markets collapsed. In some cities, riots broke out. Military forces struggled to maintain order while preparing for a threat they couldn't comprehend. The Varaxian scout ships continued to observe, hovering over major cities, occasionally emitting scanning beams that swept across buildings and people. In the small team's war room, Greg Hampton joined them. The communications specialist had worked with deep space signal technology for 15 years. "If these aliens use telepathic networking, like Captain Morgan suggests," Greg explained, "then their communications might be vulnerable to flooding." "Information overload," Dr. Walsh nodded, "like a denial of service attack on a computer network." "But what information?" Lisa asked. Diane had been quiet, thinking. Now she looked up. "Our history, our wars, our resilience." Everyone looked at her. "The Varaxians evolved as a unified species," she explained. "They never fought themselves. But humans? We've spent thousands of years fighting each other, developing ways to defeat stronger enemies, to survive against impossible odds. Understanding dawned on their faces. "We show them everything," Alan said. "From ancient battles to modern warfare. Guerrilla tactics, asymmetric conflicts, mutual assured destruction," added General Howard. "Exactly," Diane said. "We show them that humans would rather destroy themselves and their attackers than surrender." Meanwhile, in space, something extraordinary was happening. The asteroid housing. The secret ship Defiance quietly changed its orbit, slowly moving toward the Varaxian fleet. Its captain, Paula Rodriguez, had received her unusual orders directly from the president. "This is either the bravest mission in human history or the shortest," Paula told her small crew of 12 specialists. "Either way, we're about to make history." The ship remained hidden inside the asteroid as it approached, its heat signature masked, its movements disguised as natural orbital drift. The crew worked in silent tension, knowing they were humanity's only active defense. Back on Earth, Diane's team worked through the night, compiling humanity's military history into a comprehensive data package. They included everything: ancient battles where smaller forces defeated empires, guerrilla campaigns that outlasted superpowers, nuclear strategies that maintained peace through the promise of mutual destruction. "We need more," Diane said as dawn approached. "We need to show them something they truly fear." "What do spacefaring conquerors fear?" Lisa wondered. Dr. Walsh looked up from his calculations. "Time," he said simply. "They fear a patient enemy who cannot be fully eliminated and will never forget." Diane nodded slowly. "Greg, add information about our generation ships." "We don't have generation ships," Greg said, confused. "The Varaxians don't know that," Diane replied. "Create files showing plans for thousands of sleeper ships, each carrying enough humans to rebuild civilization, already launched toward distant stars. And include the coordinates of the Varaxian homeworld," Alan added, understanding the plan. As the deadline closed to 24 hours, President Garcia addressed the world. She didn't mention the secret plan, only urged unity and courage. Behind the scenes, military forces worldwide prepared for potential attack while supporting Diane's strategy. In space, the Defiance moved closer to the Varaxian fleet. Captain Rodriguez received confirmation that their special payload was ready, a combination of targeted electromagnetic pulse generators and the data package about humanity. "We'll only get one chance," Paula told her crew. "When their shields fluctuate, we transmit everything and deploy the EMP simultaneously. On Earth, people held their loved ones close, watching the skies with dread. Churches filled. So did bars. Humanity faced its darkest hour in countless individual ways." In the Pentagon War Room, Diane checked the countdown clock. 20 hours remained. "Will it work?" Lisa asked quietly. "I don't know," Diane admitted. "But if there's one thing humans are good at, it's surviving against the odds." At that moment, High Admiral Krell stood on the command deck of the Varaxian flagship, watching Earth through viewscreens. To the hive mind, the chaotic, disorganized human response was confusing. They had expected either immediate surrender or a unified but futile defense. Instead, they witnessed millions of individual reactions, unpredictable and inconsistent. For a species that thought and acted as one, this fragmented response was difficult to analyze. "Curious creatures," Krell said to no one in particular. "Soon to be extinct." The Varaxian commander had no idea that humanity's real response was already on its way, carrying a message that would change everything. The command center of the UES Defiance was smaller than most people would imagine for humanity's secret weapon. Captain Paula Rodriguez and her 11 crew members worked in tight quarters inside the asteroid. Each was chosen not just for their skills but for their ability to handle extreme pressure. "Shield fluctuation in 17 minutes, reported Officer Sam Turner, eyes fixed on his monitor. Paula nodded. "Begin final preparations for Operation Thunderclap." Throughout the ship, systems powered up. The dark energy weapons Dr. Walsh had designed hummed to life. The data package containing humanity's military history was ready to transmit. Everything depended on perfect timing. Back on Earth, Diane paced the Pentagon War Room. Screens showed the asteroid's approach toward the Varaxian fleet. So far, the aliens hadn't noticed anything unusual about the space rock drifting their way. 12 hours to deadline, Alan noted. General Howard entered the room with President Garcia. The president looked at the main screen showing the Varaxian ships. "Major Curtis," she said, "if this doesn't work, we have conventional missiles ready to launch. They won't reach the alien fleet, but they'll show we went down fighting." "Let's hope it doesn't come to that," Diane replied. "The Defiance is almost in position." On the Varaxian flagship, High Admiral Krell reviewed reports from the scout ships. The humans were behaving strangely. Instead of coordinated action, they scattered in all directions. Some gathered in large buildings. Others fled to remote areas. Some even continued their daily activities as if nothing were happening. "Primitive minds," said Sub-Commander Vex. "They cannot comprehend their situation." "Perhaps," Krell said. "Or perhaps they understand something we do not." The Varaxian sensors detected a small asteroid moving nearby. Their scans showed it was natural rock, nothing unusual in the debris-filled solar system. They paid it little attention. Inside that asteroid, Paula Rodriguez gave final instructions to her crew. "Once we transmit, They'll know exactly where we are, she said. We'll have 90 seconds to move out of firing range. If we can't escape, remember what we're fighting for. Greg Hampton, the communications specialist sent from Earth, made final adjustments to the transmission package. Unlike the military crew around him, Greg was a civilian scientist who had never expected to be on the front line of humanity's defense. Package ready, he confirmed, his voice steady despite his fear. Energy weapons at full charge, reported Weapons Officer Lily Baker. Paula took her seat in the command chair. 10 minutes to shield fluctuation. Remove asteroid camouflage on my mark. On Earth, in the small Colorado observatory where it all began, Lisa Patel watched through her telescope. She couldn't see the Defiance, but she knew it was there, carrying humanity's hopes. Her computer tracked the energy readings from the Varaxian ships, confirming the pattern she had discovered. In the Pentagon, Diane, Alan, and Dr. Walsh watched, intense silence. The President and Joint Chiefs stood behind them. No one spoke as the countdown continued. 5 minutes, Alan said finally. Dr. Walsh nervously adjusted his glasses. If my calculations are correct, the dark energy pulse will penetrate their shields during the fluctuation. It won't destroy their ships, but it will prove they're vulnerable. And the data package will hit their communication network at the same time, Diane added. A 1-2 punch. Inside the Defiance, Paula watched the timer count down. 3 minutes. Power to engines. Prepare to break cover. The ship's engines hummed to life inside the hollow asteroid. The crew strapped into their seats. 2 minutes. Weapons ready. Lily's fingers hovered over the firing controls. The dark energy weapons were experimental, never tested in actual combat. 1 minute. Communications ready. Greg checked the transmission. Package 1 last time. Everything humanity knew about warfare, survival, and determination compressed into a single data burst. 30 seconds. Remove asteroid camouflage. The outer shell of the asteroid split apart, falling away to reveal the sleek shape of the Defiance. Its black hull was designed to absorb radar and light, but now it didn't matter if the Varaxians saw it. On the Varaxian flagship, alarms sounded. Human vessel detected, Sub-Commander Vex shouted. Krell turned in surprise. Impossible, they have. No ships capable of reaching this distance. Scans confirm it is artificial and powered, Vex insisted. They hid it inside an asteroid. Krell laughed. One tiny ship? This will be amusing. Open a channel. I want to hear their pitiful threats before we destroy them. On the Defiance, Paula received the notification. They're opening communications. 10 seconds to shield fluctuation, Sam reported. Accept their channel, Paula ordered. Prepare to transmit on my mark. High Admiral Krell's face appeared on the main screen. The alien looked confident, almost bored. Human vessel, he said. Your attempt at resistance is futile but entertaining. Did you truly believe one small ship could challenge the Varaxian armada? Paula smiled. We don't need to challenge you, we just need you to listen. Krell tilted his head in confusion. Shield fluctuation beginning, Sam announced. Now, Paula commanded. Greg hit the transmission button. The data package shot toward the Varaxian fleet precisely as their shields entered the 3.2-second reset cycle. Simultaneously, Lily fired the dark energy weapons. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The energy pulse passed through the weakened shields of the nearest Varaxian ship, creating a brief but visible disruption across its hull. Not enough to cause serious damage, but enough to prove their vulnerability. More importantly, the data package penetrated their communication network. The Varaxians, with their telepathically linked minds, all received the transmission simultaneously. On the flagship, Krell grabbed his head in pain as thousands of years of human warfare flooded his consciousness. Images of ancient battles, modern conflicts, nuclear standoffs, guerrilla campaigns, all demonstrating humanity's endless creativity in fighting against superior forces. The other Varaxians reacted similarly, overwhelmed by the flood of information. Their hive mind, so effective at unified action, became a weakness as the data spread instantly to every individual. On Earth, Diane and her team watched as the Varaxian ships suddenly went dark, their lights flickering. "It's working," Alan said quietly. The Defiance fired its engines, moving rapidly away from the alien fleet. They had expected immediate retaliation, but the Varaxian ships remained motionless. "They're processing the data," Diane explained. "Their shared consciousness means they all have to understand it before they can respond." Minutes passed. The deadline for Earth's surrender grew closer, now just 11 hours away. Still, the Varaxian fleet made no move. In space, the Defiance reached a safe distance and turned to observe. Captain Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. "Phase 1 complete," she reported to Earth. "We've delivered our message." On the Varaxian flagship, Krell slowly recovered from the information assault. The human data package continued to spread through their network, impossible to stop. Every Varaxian now knew humanity's long history of warfare, their stubborn refusal to surrender even against overwhelming odds, and their willingness to ensure mutual destruction rather than accept defeat. Most disturbing were the files showing human ARC ships allegedly already launched toward distant stars, carrying with them the coordinates of the Varaxian homeworld and all their colony planets. "Deception," Vex suggested weakly. "They have no such technology." "Can we be certain?" Krell asked. "These humans are unlike any species we have encountered." For the first time in the history of the Varaxian conquests, doubt entered their collective mind. On Earth, Diane watched the alien fleet with growing hope. "Now we wait," she said. "We've given them something new to consider, the possibility of defeat." 6 hours remained until the Varaxian deadline. The alien fleet had not moved or communicated since receiving the human data package. On Earth, military forces remained on high alert, but a cautious hope began to spread. In the Pentagon war room, Diane studied the satellite images of the Varaxian ships. Their energy readings had changed, showing unusual patterns of activity. "They're arguing," she said. Alan looked up from his tablet. "How can you tell?" "The energy flows between ships are erratic. Before they were steady and synchronized. Now, they spike and drop. It's like watching an argument through body language." Dr. Walsh nodded in agreement. "The hive mind is experiencing discord, possibly for the first time." President Garcia entered the room, looking tired but determined. "The Security Council is demanding updates. Do we have anything concrete to tell them?" "Only theories," Diane admitted. "But the fact that they haven't attacked yet is significant. The data package is making them reconsider." On the Varaxian flagship, the atmosphere was tense. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the command structure experienced disagreement. The human data package had affected each Varaxian differently. High Admiral Krell stood before the gathered sub-commanders. Their mental link, usually so seamless, now felt strained. "The humans are primitive but dangerous," Krell said. "Their history shows a species that thrives on conflict." "They exaggerate," Sub-Commander Vex argued. "These images of human warfare cannot all be true. No species could survive such self-destruction. Yet they have," said another commander named Zara. "And they have demonstrated they can penetrate our shields." The debate continued, unprecedented in Varaxian society. The information about human ARC ships particularly troubled them. If true, it meant destroying Earth would not eliminate the human threat. Instead, it would create a scattered, vengeful enemy that would one day reach Varaxian space. Meanwhile, the UES Defiance maintained its position at a safe distance. Captain Paula Rodriguez kept her ship ready for immediate action while monitoring the alien fleet. "Any change?" she asked her sensor officer. "Energy fluctuations throughout their fleet," Sam reported, "but no weapons charging or movement." Greg Hampton, the communications specialist, looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual signals between their ships. It's like their network is fragmented." "The data package is working," Paula said with grim satisfaction. "They're not used to disagreement." On Earth, Lisa Patel made an important discovery. The young astronomer had continued monitoring the Varaxian energy patterns and noticed that the small scout ships over Earth cities had changed their behavior. "They're scanning everything," she told Diane over a secure video call. Cultural sites, military bases, hospitals, schools, it's like they're trying to verify what we sent them. Diane immediately shared this information with the president and military command. They're fact-checking us, she explained. The data package made them question their understanding of humanity. 4 hours before the deadline, the Varaxian scout ship suddenly withdrew from Earth's atmosphere, returning to the main fleet. People worldwide watched them go with a mixture of relief and new anxiety. What does it mean? President Garcia asked. They've gathered enough information to make a decision, Diane said. Now we find out if our gamble worked. On the Varaxian flagship. Krell reviewed the new data from the scout ships. Everything confirmed what the human package had shown. Cities built on the ruins of earlier cities. Monuments to ancient wars. Military bases designed to withstand attacks. Bunkers deep, underground ready to shelter survivors. Most concerning were the nuclear missile silos and submarines. The scans confirmed that humans had indeed built weapons capable of destroying their own planet rather than surrendering it to an enemy. The human warning is valid, Krell finally admitted to his commanders. They will not surrender. They will fight until nothing remains, and even then their alleged ARC ships would carry their vengeance to our homeworld. We have conquered 17 worlds, Vex reminded him. We cannot show weakness now. It is not weakness to recognize a new type of threat, Krell countered. These humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They do not think as one. Their individuality is their weakness, Vex insisted. No, said Commander Zara, who had studied the human data most closely. It is their strength. Each human can make independent decisions. They can adapt in ways we cannot predict. Back in the Pentagon, tension mounted as the deadline approached. 2 hours remained, and still, no word from the Varaxians. Diane, Allen, and Dr. Walsh worked frantically to prepare contingency plans. If the Varaxians attacked, Earth's conventional defenses would be useless. Their only hope was that the dark energy weapons on the Defiance could be reproduced quickly enough to mount some kind of defense. We need more time, Dr. Walsh said, running calculations on his tablet. Weeks, not hours. I don't think we're going to get it, Allen replied grimly. Diane was about to respond when all the screens in the room suddenly changed. High Admiral Krell's face appeared, his expression unreadable. People of Earth, the alien began. We have received your warning. The room fell silent. Around the world, people stopped what they were doing as the message played on every connected device. For the first time in Varaxian history, we have encountered a species willing and able to ensure mutual destruction rather than submit. Your history of conflict has prepared you for this moment in ways we did not anticipate. Krell paused and Diane held her breath. We acknowledge your warning. The deadline for surrender is suspended. We request to meet with your leaders to discuss alternatives to conquest. The transmission ended. For a moment, no one moved or spoke. Then the room erupted in cautious celebration. President Garcia raised her hands for quiet. This is only a first step, she warned. They're still here, and they're still dangerous. But they're talking, Diane said. That's more than we had yesterday. On the Defiance, Captain Rodriguez received new orders from Earth. Her ship would serve as the neutral meeting ground between human and Varaxian representatives. Prepare the conference room, she told her crew, and keep the weapons hot just in case. As word spread around the world, people reacted with a mixture of relief, disbelief, and continued fear. The Varaxian ships remained in position beyond Mars, a constant reminder of the threat they posed. In the Pentagon, Diane prepared for perhaps the most important diplomatic mission in human history. She had been chosen to join the small delegation that would meet with the Varaxians. Why me? She asked the president. I'm a military strategist, not a diplomat. Because you understand them, President Garcia replied. You saw their weakness when no one else did. As Diane packed the material she would need, Allen stopped by her office. They're still evaluating us, he warned. This meeting is another test. I know, Diane said, but now they're taking us seriously. That's what we wanted. Just be careful, Allen said. They've conquered 17 worlds. This could still be a trap. Diane nodded. Or it could be the first step toward something neither species expected. A military transport waited to take her to the launch site where a rocket would carry the human delegation to rendezvous with the Defiance. As she walked toward it, Diane looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, an alien species was reconsidering everything they thought they knew about humans. The Varaxians had threatened Earth. Humanity had issued a warning they couldn't ignore. Now came the hard part, turning that warning into a lasting peace. The UES Defiance looked small next to the massive Varaxian flagship. The human ship had been chosen as neutral ground for the historic meeting. Captain Paula Rodriguez and her crew had transformed the largest compartment into a conference room, with a round table, a deliberate choice to show equality between the species. Diane Curtis stood by the viewport, watching as the Varaxian shuttle approached. Her small delegation included Alan Morgan, Dr. Kevin Walsh, and President Garcia's personal representative, Ambassador Joe Foster. None of them had slept much in the last 3 days. "They're coming aboard," Paula announced from the doorway. 5 representatives as agreed, Diane nodded. "Any weapons?" "None that our scanners can detect. But their biology itself could be a weapon for all we know." The air in the room felt heavy with tension as they waited. Alan checked his tablet one last time, reviewing the strategy they had developed for the negotiation. "Remember," he told the group, "they think collectively. They'll expect us to have a single, unified position, which we don't," Ambassador Foster said with a slight smile. "Exactly," Diane replied. "That's our advantage." The door slid open. 5 Varaxians entered the room. They moved with perfect coordination, almost like a single organism with multiple bodies. High Admiral Krell led them, his tall figure immediately recognizable from the broadcasts. The other 4 Varaxians included Sub-Commander Vex, Commander Zara, and 2 others whose roles were unknown. For a moment, both groups simply observed each other. It was the first time humans and Varaxians had been in the same room. Up close, the aliens were both more and less human-like than they appeared on screens. Their blue-gray skin had a subtle pattern of lines. Their large black eyes didn't blink. When they moved, it was with a grace that seemed almost liquid. Ambassador Foster stepped forward. "Welcome aboard the UES Defiance. I am Joseph Foster, representing Earth's governments." Krell tilted his head slightly. "I am High Admiral Krell of the Varaxian Collective. We have questions." "As do we," Foster replied. "Please, let's sit." The humans took seats on one side of the round table. The Varaxians hesitated, then sat opposite them. Diane noticed they kept perfect spacing between themselves. "Your data package was disturbing," Krell began. "We have conquered 17 worlds. All surrendered when faced with our technology." "Humans don't surrender easily," Diane said. "We fight." "Against each other," Commander Zara noted. "For thousands of years." "Why?" The question seemed genuine. Diane looked at Alan, who nodded, encouragingly. "We're individuals," she explained. "We have different ideas, beliefs, resources. Sometimes those differences lead to conflict." "Inefficient," Sub-Commander Vex stated flatly. "Perhaps," Dr. Walsh replied. "But it drives innovation. Competition pushes us to improve, to adapt." Krell's large eyes focused on Diane. "Your strategy was unexpected. You knew you could not defeat us militarily, so you threatened mutual destruction and diaspora. We call it deterrence," Ambassador Foster said. "It kept peace between our nuclear powers for decades." "A peace built on fear," Krell observed. "Sometimes fear is necessary," Diane replied. "But we prefer cooperation when possible." The meeting continued for hours. The Varaxians asked detailed questions about human history, focusing particularly on times when smaller forces had defeated larger ones. They seemed fascinated by guerrilla warfare, resistance movements, and humanity's ability to rebuild after devastating conflicts. "These ARC ships," Krell said eventually. "How many have been launched?" The humans exchanged looks. This was the moment of truth for their bluff. "That information is classified," Ambassador Foster said smoothly, "but enough to ensure humanity's survival regardless of what happens to Earth." Vex leaned forward. "We detect no such launches." "Your scans have limitations," Dr. Walsh countered, "as we demonstrated with our ship hidden in an asteroid." Commander Zara had been quiet for some time. Now she addressed her fellow Varaxians in their own language, a series of melodic tones that the human translators couldn't process. The other aliens responded, and for several minutes they appeared to argue among themselves. Diane watched carefully. The discord in their hive mind was visible, even without understanding their words. Their perfect coordination faltered. Their expressions changed independently of each other. Finally, Krell turned back to the humans. "We wish to propose an alternative arrangement." Ambassador Foster raised his eyebrows. "We're listening. The Varaxian collective needs resources. Your solar system has abundance. We propose a trade rather than conquest." "What would you trade?" Foster asked. "Technology, knowledge, protection." "Protection from what?" Diane asked sharply. Krell hesitated, then activated a holographic projector. A three-dimensional image appeared above the table, a massive, shapeless entity that seemed to consume light itself. "The Void Swarm," he said. "It exists at the edge of our known galaxy. It consumes all life, all matter. The Varaxian collective has been gathering resources to build defenses against it." The humans stared at the image in shock. Dr. Walsh leaned forward, his scientific curiosity evident. "Why not just explain this when you arrived?" Diane asked. "Why threaten us?" "It has been our way for centuries," Krell admitted. "Conquest is efficient. Negotiation is not our strength." "It could be," Ambassador Foster suggested. "With practice." 2 days later, Diane stood in the United Nations General Assembly Hall in New York. The room was packed with world leaders and media. On the stage, President Garcia and High Admiral Krell signed the Earth-Varaxian Treaty, a document that would change humanity's future forever. The treaty established trade of resources for technology. It created joint research initiatives to study the Void Swarm threat. Most importantly, it recognized Earth as an independent ally rather than a conquest. "This isn't the end," Alan said, standing beside Diane in the crowded hall. "The Varaxians have conquered for centuries. Old habits don't change overnight." "No," Diane agreed. "But it's a start." Later that evening, as celebrations continued worldwide, Diane found herself in an unexpected private meeting with High Admiral Krell. The Varaxian had requested to speak with her alone. "There is something I must know," Krell said when they were seated in a quiet room overlooking the illuminated UN garden. "The Ark ships, were they real?" Diane met his large black eyes steadily. "Does it matter now?" "Perhaps not. But I am curious. A new sensation for me." "Curiosity is good," Diane said with a small smile. "It leads to discovery." "Your species confuses and fascinates us," Krell admitted. "You fight amongst yourselves yet unite against outside threats. You develop weapons of self-destruction yet create art of remarkable beauty." "We contain multitudes," Diane replied. "It's both our greatest weakness and our greatest strength." Krell made a sound that might have been a laugh. "The other worlds we conquered never issued warnings we could not ignore. They never forced us to reconsider our path." "What will you tell the next world you encounter?" Diane asked. The Varaxian was quiet for a moment. "That conquest is not the only way. That some alliances are more valuable than subjugation." As Krell left to rejoin his delegation, Diane stepped out onto the balcony. Above, stars filled the night sky. Among them were the Varaxian ships, no longer a threat but a complicated new presence in human affairs. Somewhere up there was also the Defiance, humanity's first true starship. And beyond perhaps the mysterious void swarm that had driven the Varaxians to conquest in the first place. Humanity had faced its greatest threat and survived not through superior firepower, but through determination, creativity, and the willingness to risk everything rather than surrender. The road ahead would not be easy. The alliance was fragile, built on mutual fear and necessity rather than trust. But for the first time, humans looked to the stars and saw not just wonder and mystery, but a future among them. A future they had earned through a warning their would-be conquerors couldn't deny.